Inside the Fox 59 CBS 4 podcast studio, welcome to the Colts Blue Zone podcast. I'm Dave Griffiths. Glad to have you here alongside me as always. We have Mike Chappell, we have Matt Adams, and we also have Sauce Gardner.
Absolutely.
A two-time first-team all-pro cornerback.
Who's 25.
25-year-old, now with the Indianapolis Colts. A mammoth blockbuster trade brings the former New York Jet to Indianapolis. And Chap, we were talking about the trade deadline for the past couple weeks, about the possible moves the Colts could make, possible positions they could be looking after. We were tempering expectations because in the NFL, this is not common that
Silly
all pros move. It's always, here's a 5th round pick for this guy. Right. If it's a big deal, a 3rd round pick for this guy.
Exactly. For a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, wow, my goodness, what a big move. No, sir, because the Jets are in full fire sale mode, and Chris Ballard made the call to bring Sauce Gardner here to Indy.
Again, we were talking like with Shane Steichen, and he doesn't give you a lot. But at one point, we were talking with someone with the Colts, and it was like, are they going to sign a dude or a dude? You know, a dude is like you said, a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Yep.
A dude is what the Colts gave up. So this is what they had their sights on. I know the Colts, I know Ballard was looking at probably this for the last 3 weeks. I think after Mooney Ward got the concussion, it really, not that no one didn't know, but it really put a focus light on how thin they were, the back end of the defense. But we could talk briefly. Where does this rank in Indy history on trades? I still think Eric Dickerson is a bigger trade, but boy, you give up 2 firsts and A.D. Mitchell. Mm-hmm. That's massive.
Yeah, the Jeff George trade was a pretty big one too.
That would be number 2 on my list.
Yeah, what you gave up to go and get him. So I think those are the 3 that come to mind. Of course, there was another player that was traded for a 1st round pick recent, and not too long ago.
Oh, I was thinking of Fred Young. You're Trent Richardson.
I was thinking of Trent Richardson. Yes.
Which I remember going back. The first game he played was in Frisco, and the first time he touched the ball, he scored a touchdown.
Yeah, it's the best
so
day
excited.
ever.
Here we go.
What a move!
This is what he was supposed to do, and then it was all downhill. So this was, forget history. This is the latest example in my mind of them believing that this is really a season that they can do something special. It started with the big moves with Cam Bynum and Mooney Ward, $60 million apiece, and the Daniel Jones move. But this is above and beyond. Where they're 7-2, tied for best in the NFL. Was it a 1.5 lead over Jacksonville in the South? So they see this as a time to strike now.
Is this, Chap, a chance as you see the Colts, if you're watching us on YouTube or on our Fox 59 Now app, still on top of the division of the AFC South? They're 5-2. Closest to them, Jacksonville Jaguars sitting at 5-3. Texans 3-5.
That's important.
It is very important. And then the Tennessee Titans bringing up the rear. It's no one's surprise at 1-8. I had to shift just to make sure.
1-8.
1-8. That is an 8.
Because they've only played 9 games.
Exactly. And that is why they're 1-8. But is this a reflection at all, Chap, do you think, of the new ownership of the Colts and it being passed down to Carly Ursay, who's now in charge of kind of the more day-to-day operations of the team? Or is this more like you referenced, just the team is in the position where they haven't been in this position in the Chris Ballard era before to make a move like this?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I don't know. I would like to think that if Jim Irsay if he was in full Jim Irsay mode to where he's able to be an owner, that I think that this would still be a move they would make. But it's interesting. People said, well, I wonder if Carly Ursay is sort of evaluating Chris Ballard. No, she's been here. She knows what she's got. And she has, you can argue good or bad, she has full confidence in Chris Ballard. I really believe that. And there's no way this move has been in the works without her, I don't know, confirmation, support, whatever the word is. I think, again, it just shows it's the perfect storm of here we are 7-2. And again, a show of hands of people who thought they were going to be 7-2. Not many people.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people.
Put those down because you're all lying.
You're all lying.
Shep said 6-2, but he didn't say 7-2.
But the fact that, and then again, I mentioned the perfect storm. The AFC is sort of muddled.
It is.
I still think Buffalo might be a cut above, but right now Kansas City's not in the playoffs.
Right.
So
which is insane if you're again looking on our screen.
Baltimore has little room for error.
Yep.
To get there. So it's all of that. But I do believe Carly Ursay is in total support, or this wouldn't have gone down.
Right. Yeah.
She's got the old veto power.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think it just shows where they believe this can be something special.
Yep.
Now, whatever that needs to be, we can argue about that. Does it need to be Super Bowl? Does it need? I think it needs to be AFC Championship game in my mind. So, but I think Jim Irsay would have done this, and I have no question that Carly Ursay was in lockstep with Chris Ballard about this.
And I agree. This move is not abnormal for Jim Irsay. If Jim was still in charge, and like you said, of his full facilities, he wanted to be an all chips in type of guy.
Almost to a fault sometimes.
Yes. And Chris Ballard, in his history, which is what he has been criticized for before on this podcast and many others out there, about just being more timid, more held back, more reserved in the moves that he made.
More value in draft picks,
right,
than someone else's players for the most part.
But now it is time to strike when the iron is hot. And you cannot deny that this iron that the Colts have is hot right now.
Right.
So you're seeing what Chris Ballard does when he has full confidence that the foundation is built and the success has started, and now the obvious deficiencies the team has can be fixed. And I want to read something to you guys. Just the assuming it is 2 first-round picks, the deal, and A.D. Mitchell. I'm going to go back to the Sauce Gardner draft year right here, 2022. Okay, he was picked 5th overall, I believe, or fourth overall. Ahmad Gardner there out of Cincinnati, guarding Alec Pierce over there in Cincinnati.
I saw Ahmad Gardner on the injury report for a second. I'm like who? Who's that?
Just some other guys, like a linebacker must be, practice squad guy, just elevate. No. But let's go down. Let's just assume that the Colts stay kind of where they are. I'm going to read the last 5 picks of the first round that year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 28th was Georgia defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt to Green Bay. Ring any bells?
Nope.
No. 29, Cole Strange, offensive guard out of Chattanooga.
Nope.
30, this one will. George Karlaftis, defensive end out of Purdue. He's a baller.
He'd look good in blue.
Yeah, he's a good player. We like George. Number 31, safety, Daxton Hill out of Michigan to the Bengals. Ring any bells?
I thought he was a quarterback at the Giants now. Oh, that's Jackson Dart. I'm sorry.
32 overall, Lewis Sine, safety out of Georgia.
Your point is well taken.
My point is you would, in a heartbeat, trade 2 of those guys
for Sauce
and A.D. Mitchell for Sauce Gardner.
This goes back to 2020 when they give up the 13th pick for DeForest Buckner.
Yep.
Who was like 24 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you do that.
100%. Not a doubt. Not a doubt. So I've seen people kind of go back and forth on the national shows about this over who gets the best of the deal. It all comes down to whether the New York Jets can draft. And historically,
I was going to say, is there any confidence that they're going to do much with those picks? And as Mike or Dave has alluded to, the Colts are not giving up the 4th pick in the draft or the 3rd pick in the draft. They are probably giving their current trajectory, looking at something there in the 20s, right?
Yep.
And they're hoping that momentum is going to continue into the season after that, and that would also be a late round draft pick. So from there, that makes a lot of sense for the Colts to get a player of this caliber.
Yeah, I'm going to skip back and forth a little bit on your rundown here, Matt.
That's
just give you a heads up warning. I think this move says a couple other things. So we'll touch on quarterback first. Do you think that this trade says anything about how Chris Ballard views his quarterback situation and the future of quarterback now? Because you typically don't give away first-round picks when you are at quarterback.
Without question. This is an affirmation of Daniel Jones. It is. And people say, well, you need to sign him to an extension now. I wouldn't do that. I need to see more. I really, which is probably unfair to him, but so many people were waiting for the old Daniel Jones to surface, and they feasted on the Pittsburgh game. That was so much more not Daniel Jones, and it was the offensive line.
Say their edge guys had a rough game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Pittsburgh had a great game. I was there. I saw it. It was less than fun.
But it is, because you don't make this move with the idea that maybe we're looking for a quarterback next year, a veteran guy. No, this is. I think this trade did two things. It cemented the fact that they're sold on Daniel Jones, and that they're going to re-sign Alec Pierce.
Yep, that was going to be my next point. Yep. But yeah, I'm glad that you hopped into it.
And the only question on both of them is, what's the price tag?
Yep.
And we talked to Reggie today. God love him. And
who is very Reggie-like.
He did not like the move.
No.
He said the move sucked. He said that's business. He said he goes from a 7-2 team to a 1-7 team. And he had to be somewhat guarded, because I've had some discussions with Reggie, and he didn't agree with this, but it's not his decision. It's you deal with the players you have. But he won't be the least bit surprised if Mitchell goes to New York, which has an awful quarterback situation, so that's not going to be nice, and really emerges. He said it takes 2.5 years for a receiver to really emerge, and he says Alec Pierce.
Look at Alec. Yeah,
Alec
exactly.
Pierce.
I think it's a great example.
So, but it's he didn't agree a bit that it didn't work for Mitchell here, because he knows the situation, because he sort of backed up Alec Pierce. So when Alec's playing, AD's not playing. So unfortunate, but again, I think this spoke volumes of, and we all bounce around because I do that. But one of the best quotes from Sauce Gardner today was about, I said, did you ask for a trade? He said, no, I wouldn't do that. That's not who I am. And his reaction to the draft, or to the trade, was not that the Jets decided to trade him, but that the Colts wanted him that badly.
Right.
Which is a great way of approaching it. And we all, just for news, he is out of protocol.
That's why we were able to talk to him today.
Correct. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to speak to the media.
And he will not only play, but he will start and probably play 55, 60 plays.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name's hello, Drake London.
Find Drake London.
Go find 5 and stick to him.
And that's one too where he said he's hardly slept since he's gotten here, because he's always doing something. Trainers or playbooks or coaches or meetings.
Passport updates.
He's looking forward to the 8-hour flight.
Right. So he can sleep, right?
He plans on sleeping. He said, I'm going to ask him not to put the defense on my pad so I can sleep.
Right.
So, but so many things going on. But to get back to the question, was this says they believe Daniel Jones is the guy.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to look at it.
Yeah, and I was going to pigeonhole that right into the Alec Pierce question, but you already answered that, so you don't have to really get too much into that, because if you get rid of A.D. Mitchell, he's the biggest competition there. Right. He's the one who would slide into the spot.
And I think that's what the idea. I always wondered, was A.D. Mitchell seen as the successor to Michael Pittman?
Mm-hmm.
Which I would think, different players, but that's the way they've drafted. And then next year you've got to deal with Josh Downs.
Right.
But I just think that again, the only question is, do you give – I saw somebody where they said they're going to give Jones a $50 million contract a year. I can't see that. I think it could be a Sam Darnold, which was 30, 35.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that. So the franchise tags, 48, 49 million.
Yep.
So that's kind of your baseline on what guaranteed money would be.
It might go even a little bit higher than the 35, because it's going to be a new year. It's going to be a new salary cap.
There's going to be
bigger numbers. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be surprised if it's 50-55. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's 40-45 at all.
Could and maybe that what has to do with that is how successful is this season?
Good point. Yep. Of course.
Did they just sneak into the playoffs, or did they kick the door down and do something? Mm-hmm. So, but we'll have a nice time, one of these podcasts, talking about the offseason moves. They've got major moves, personnel moves, decisions to make.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a podcast for another day.
Yep. Sauce Gardner, in his time with the media, said his favorite color is blue, so we got that going for us here.
Going for him. That's what I thought too.
He enjoyed his time in New York. It happened fast. He was in bed with his girl when he got the news. We'll leave that exactly where it is and not delve any deeper into it.
We couldn't find a way to
delicately
have a follow up on that.
Yeah, but yeah, he's going to be number one. Josh Downs, it's now second downs in Josh's career now. So, I thought
same number as his brother in
exactly
Ohio
Caleb,
State.
who's a heck of a player at Ohio State. I was thinking about this. I said I was thinking it would be funny if Josh Downs continued in his career. He had first downs. That was his debut into the NFL. Now it's second downs. It's time to take the next step. It's time to go on. And then maybe when he gets to year 8, 9 in his career, it's third downs. It's the clutch years. The last years. And then when he's in his 12th year in the NFL, it's fourth downs, and he goes to number 4.
He needs to be fourth downs with Shane Steichen.
Yeah, he does.
Because Shane goes for fourth downs.
Okay, and that's a good transition into talking briefly maybe about last week's game in Pittsburgh, because the Colts were 5 of 5 on fourth down in Pittsburgh. They outgained the Steelers by 140 yards. They had their first 2 100-yard receivers of the year.
And a successful fake punt.
And yet, and yet, they lost the game. You look at the stats of that game.
It doesn't make sense, right?
No.
Right. Well,
except
one stat. Look at the turnovers.
There's one stat. Those 6 stinking turnovers.
5 by the quarterback.
That was not good. And like you said, those numbers are inexorably skewed against Daniel Jones, because do you want your quarterback to feel maybe the edge rush a little bit better and not have the fumble, at least one of those fumbles? You can argue that. That's fine. And that's fair completely. And I think that Daniel would say that that's fair too. But 2 of his 3 interceptions were on deflected balls that went right into the hands of the defense. And boom, boom, just bad luck there.
And that's from giving too much penetration to the defensive front.
Exactly. So it was not a pretty day for the offensive line in Pittsburgh. And at the other side of the coin, you say the defense has to deal with 6 offensive turnovers and all those short fields, and they only give up 27 points. That's fairly good. 27 points is on the upper end of the normal scoring for sure. But when you look at the history of the NFL and see how many 6 turnover games there are. I didn't do this, and it would take way too much time and effort to do this.
I didn't bring the numbers with me.
Okay, but the numbers would be just so much more than 27 points per game.
It was and the record's 5-92.
Yeah,
since 2000.
Yeah.
You just don't win with 6 turnovers.
No, you don't.
No, and you give it's not like the Colts, not that this would be a good thing, but it's not like the Colts had the ball at the 1-yard line and fumbled it, and the Steelers had to go 99 yards down the field. They got it in prime position in most of those cases.
Yes, in many ways. And then Aaron Rodgers took over and did what he's done for nearly 2 decades.
They just didn't make him do anything.
Exactly. He was not spectacular.
He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He doesn't put the ball in danger. He knows what he's doing out there.
Yeah.
So
he did exactly what he needed to, and just barely to win that game. Right. The Colts were an onside kick recovery away from a Hail Mary to tie the game, in spite of turning the ball over 6 times. So you can.
I don't put a lot of attaboys on that though.
No, I don't.
Because they onside kicked twice.
Right.
And that's never a good thing.
No.
And it's going to go down as a 1-possession game, and it wasn't a 1-possession game.
I think it was 27-10 at one point. So they really had to do something exceptional
and
to come back.
Michael Badgley hit 2 50-plus yard field goals.
Right.
Add that to the mix.
I know that was probably the most surprising thing to me.
And they were clean. Yeah, they were pure.
He didn't.
Bam.
They were no doubters.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to say that's a one-off, right?
I think so. And Laiatu Latu had 2.5 sacks. I've been not ripping, but I've been just hesitant to crown Laiatu Latu all year. And he has his best game by far. And in the locker room after we're talking to him, he's like, I felt pretty good out there. And it was clicking for me, and I was happy with how I played. He's like, it sucks that you lose a game like that, but that's what you want from from your second year first round pick that it's starting to feel right for him out there. And he's had some games that are okay this year, but like I said earlier in this podcast, not this podcast, but a couple weeks ago, like I've just been waiting for a game for him to be dominant. And he was pretty darn dominant against the Steelers. 2.5 sacks would point in that direction.
He had always talked in the offseason about how many almost sacks he had, the near sacks, which they don't. There's no
stat for
category for that. No. Dwight Freeney always argued about that. But this is what a Sauce Gardner move does.
Mm-hmm.
It should, and then when Mooney Ward gets back, hopefully after the bye, can you imagine these two guys up and what they can do to the outside receivers? But that should give you that other half second to let the defensive front and the pressure get there,
right?
Because with the people that they've had to play with as corners, you can't be that aggressive and really press. These guys will. So all these almost sacks, they should have the opportunity to be sacks.
Yeah.
Because the back end is given just enough time for the rush to get there.
Because there have been many cases where they just need that little split second to get there.
I got the feeling that Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis would both be the king of the almost sacks because the other one stole the other one's sack like 6-7 times a year at least. And
again, they're still like top 5 in sacks.
Yeah,
I believe. As much as we complain about the inconsistent pressure, which I think that's valid, they're still like top 5.
It's mostly because
26 sacks.
It's situational because we have seen those key situations where it's a 3rd and 14 and you're like, just get some pressure on the guy. And instead they complete the pass and it's first down.
Yeah. Instead, what's his name? Justin Herbert's just sitting back there and like with Bob, who knows who, as his left tackle. And
but with these two guys now, and I think what's important and can be lost in this is what this does to Jalen Jones, who's started 27 games in 2.5 years.
Yeah, played pretty well against DK Metcalf.
All of a sudden, he's not a starter.
Tried to fight DK Metcalf last week.
He's that third corner, not a nickel, but a third corner. Maybe he's on tight ends now. So it really gives them flexibility. And I do like the fact that Jalen Jones came to Kenny Moore's defense.
Yeah, that play was it was a weird play because I remember watching it. So I'll outline it. I could see Metcalf right over him, and after the play, like he's still kind of over Kenny. And so I'm totally fine with Jalen Jones going over and inserting himself and getting him away. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you got away, and then the refs were there for a minute. It was a scrum over on the Colts sideline, and then a couple seconds later the flag went. So something happened after the initial incident that caused the flag to come out. So, yes, I agree with you. I thought it was great for Jalen to get in there and defend Kenny. But then whatever happened after, because also Shane was ticked off about it too, because Jalen Jones went right to the bench after that play.
Ticked off with Jalen Jones. We asked Lou about that. I asked Lou about that on Tuesday. And it's kind of what you're saying is you need to have your teammates back, but there's a line you don't cross, and he crossed it.
Yes, exactly. So, lesson learned. But like you said, Chap, I think his role now is that dime back, perhaps, that can cover a tight end.
Right.
And which would be very helpful for the Colts because they have not been good against tight ends this year. They have given up either the most or the second most yards to tight ends all season long. I know it was second going into last week, but I also know the Steelers tight ends put up quite a few numbers on them last week, so they could have jumped whoever was number 1 at the time. So they could use somebody, and the great Rick Venturi in his analysis of Jalen Jones has always said that he really likes how tough he is and how competitive he is, and that those are perfect characteristics to have if you're going to be going up against tight ends game after game in important situations. So you got to be physical, and that's his strength. His strength is not his speed. Like, he's fast enough to play corner in the NFL. He's not fast enough to be an elite corner in the NFL, but he could be a really good player in this specific context.
A couple of good tight ends coming up next few weeks, too. Kyle Pitts. And then Kelsey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who? Mr. Taylor Swift, that guy, Mr. Swifty. Yeah. But the Colts are still on top of the AFC South. They're still on top of the AFC. They'd be the number 1 seed. And the Colts will face Atlanta in Berlin. Our Chris Woodlick already over there in Berlin for this week's trip, this week's game. But It's been a whirlwind of a week here in Indianapolis, and with a lot of stuff going on. And we should we'll shift our focus here to next week.
I was just going to say the thing that surprised me about the Sauce Gardner deal was 2 first-round picks from Chris Ballard, who's usually very stingy with his picks. Obviously, that says a lot about their belief in the team. And then the fact that how many times do we see this thing just kind of get leaked, or you hear this guy's name floated out as a trade possibility?
Not one time.
That did not happen at all with this one. It surprised everybody.
I compared it to when Brad Stevens went from Butler to the Celtics. Right. There was never a whisper of that.
You did not think that was a real thing that happened,
right?
Because you just not a thing. There was no inkling that was a thing,
right?
But, total fire sale for the New York Jets. Right now.
Also, and we'll get off and move forward.
Yeah.
What's interesting is this is, and I wrote a story about this is kind of like Jim Irsay with the all chips in, to where and it sort of is for this year, but this is not a rental. Gardner now is with the Colts through 2030, I believe. He just signed that 4-year, $120 million extension. And what's really, it's sort of team friendly. He costs $600,000 the rest of the season against the cap. Next year, I believe it's 9 against the cap.
I think that's,
and then it goes 20, 25, and then 30 or 30.
A little less team friendly after that.
But you'll address that.
Yeah, you'll still fix it.
So this is while it looks like it's all in to make a push now. This is still
they're still getting a really young player who plays at a high level.
25, and what's Mooney Ward? 28. I don't know. Cam Ward's not old. You've got really quality players who aren't old. JT and Pittman and Pierce and Downs. The defense is a little older, but this is a push for now, but not mortgaged in the future for now.
Yeah. Eventually that defense is going to have to get younger, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. That's let's not write
the defensive front.
Yeah. Let's not write the story for 3 seasons from now quite yet. We can say that, hey, this might happen, but this year is something that should be very exciting for Colts fans down the line. You're watching the Colts Blue Zone podcast on Fox 59 now. The Colts take on the Atlanta Falcons at Olympic Stadium in Germany this week. It's a 9:30 a.m. kickoff. Game is a national broadcast on NFL Network, but if you're watching in Central Indiana, be sure to tune into Fox 59 at 9 a.m. for our Colts Blue Zone pregame show. Our Chris Widlick is on the road for the game. His content starts showing up today on both Fox 59 and CBS 4. So it's a big one that we're looking forward to, have been for some time. It's in an iconic venue for reasons. Historic reasons. And recently it's been host to World Cup games. It's host to a German Bundesliga team. It's the first time it will host a regular season NFL game. The Colts played in Frankfurt a couple years ago. Now they get to go in the German capital in Berlin. So the NFL takes over plants its flag somewhere else in another post. And there's games in Brazil, coming up. There's been games all over the dang place. And
one in Madrid coming up.
Yeah, one in Madrid. And now the Colts will take on Berlin here, Chap. And I know you would have loved to go. I would have loved to go. This is, I know some Colts fans. We've been talking to some of those Colts fans who are on the road for this one. So it's the players' job to play the game, and they're not exactly going to be sightseeing and traveling over to Munich to visit the Hofbrauhaus or anything like that. But it should be. You hope that their fun is your fun on Sunday morning. They're able to pull out the win here over the Falcons.
This is something that Jim Irsay always embraced: the global outreach of the NFL. What they've been, Mexico City, Toronto is a little different, but Tokyo and London and now Germany twice, and I think Roger Goodell's mentioned that ideally they're going to have every team play a game overseas every season,
right?
And was it Rio and Australia? Is there a game in Australia next year? I think
I'd have to look that up.
That's a road trip. Australia's a road trip. So, but it's kind of what the NBA has not to this extent. I don't think is it they don't. They've sort of reached out to China and all this stuff, but not to this extent. And The NFL is as we've said, is one of the smartest visionary companies that whatever they touch is gold. So, but I think and also because of all the things that have taken place, this is a huge game. You do not want to go into your bye week with 2 losses, and then the second half of the season really toughens up with Kansas City and Houston twice and Jacksonville twice, and what is it, Seattle, Frisco. That's you got to play well. So, and we've got it here. This team is loaded, and they've got the strangest wins and losses that you can imagine.
Yeah, the Falcons they have lost 3 in a row right now. They lost to the 49ers, the Dolphins, and the Patriots.
Dolphins.
Yes, the Dolphins.
In Atlanta, wasn't it?
34-10. 34-10.
In Atlanta.
Cousins played in that game, though.
Yes.
As well.
Who's that?
Instead of
Kirk Cousins quarterback that one.
It
shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter.
Don't care if Jacob Eason played in that game. Oh, no.
I mean, Miami's just in tatters right now.
But they beat the Bills. They got blanked by the Panthers 30-0. They beat the Vikings 22-6, and just barely lost to the Buccaneers in their opener, and also beat the
differential
Commanders.
There? It's really wacky.
It's minus 35.
Yeah, I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah. I was about to say, I don't have the differential. I was just looking at the games there. But like they've shown, like I said, they beat the Bills. If you can beat the Bills, you can beat anybody in the NFL.
I agree.
And they held the Bills to just 14 points. It's not like they beat them in a shootout and just barely hung on. Like this Falcons defense, when playing at its best, is a pretty darn good unit.
They've got a lot of good players on this team.
Yeah.
That record does not make a lot of sense.
Yeah, Michael Penix Jr., of course, IU football fans will have some familiarity with him, who led the Hoosiers to a pretty darn good 2020 season.
Thank goodness I spelled the graphic right.
Yes, you did, but our fine friends down in Fort Myers or wherever it was earlier this year didn't.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes.
That can be kind of funky.
Yes, exactly.
It can be, yes.
Michael Penix.
Quadruple check that.
Exactly. Yes. Let's make sure.
Because it wants to auto check. Your autocorrect.
Like, no, don't do that. No, please. 7 games this year. He's completing about 61% of his passes, 1,630 yards, 8 touchdowns in those 7 games, 3 interceptions. 10 sacks, has 19 rushes for 62 yards. So he's not running all that much out there, which has never been his strength. He's mobile, but he's a thrower of the football. Let's see. He's been dealing with a bone bruise. He missed the game against Miami, like you mentioned, Matt, when Kirk Cousins stepped in and the team proceeded to lay
that great.
A giant you-know-what in the middle of their own field.
So bad.
Yeah, it was less than good. But around Penix and what has enabled him to kind of take this step in his career this year to be the starter are some pretty darn good players on the outside. And we'll start with the guy who's right next to him or behind him, as the case may be, is Bijan Robinson at running back. One of those guys that gets the pub is one of the best running backs in the NFL, though I think people here in Indianapolis might have a thing or two to say about that. Right. Exactly. But Bijan is a pretty darn good player, has 118 carries for 595 yards. He's averaging 5 yards per carry, only has 2 touchdowns on the ground, but has 41 catches as well. He's a really big threat out of the backfield.
He's their second leading receiver by yardage.
Has 463 yards receiving. Has 2 touchdowns there as well. Has 9 plays of 20-plus yards. So
he's on pace for 2,000 total yards. That's impressive.
That's good. That is really, really good. So if you get him the ball, it's like Jonathan Taylor, chap, that Colts fans will be familiar with. He can start slow. Maybe,
right,
and he could start fast too. But even if he starts slow, there's 1 or 2 plays that he gets free, and then they can be backbreakers.
Swarm to the ball, and don't think the one guy is going to bring him down.
Yep. Tyler Algier, their backup running back, 63 carries, 213 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He can catch it out of the backfield too. He's more of a little bit of a bruiser.
Yeah.
He can run in at the goal line, and that's why he has the 4 touchdowns there. Fantasy football managers. No, vulturing the touchdowns at the goal line. Drake London, their top wide receiver, the second year man. He's pretty young out of USC. I forget exactly how old he is, but he's been in the league for a short time and done pretty well. He's 9th in the NFL in receiving yards, 587 yards, has 47 catches himself, which again, Bijan Robinson is 41, so he's not too far behind Drake London. 5 touchdowns for him, has 8 plays of 20-plus yards. So he's a guy who can attack down the field.
8th overall pick in 2022 for London.
There you go. So his 22, 23, 24, 25, his 4th year now, I guess, in the NFL. So he has a little bit more experience than I remember. But in the Alec Pierce year, and I think Alec Pierce is still number 1 in yards per reception in the NFL.
Yeah, for qualified receivers. There's a couple that have had like 10 receptions.
They don't count.
They don't count.
Drake London, I think, is top 5, I think, in that stat too. I know that he's he can get down the field, and he is a down the field receiver. And Michael Penix Jr., from, if IU fans will remember, he's a down the field thrower too, and also from his time at Washington. He was fantastic throwing deep to Rome Odunze in their run to the national championship that year with the Huskies. So he's really good at throwing downfield. Drake London's really good at receiving downfield. It's a good combination between those two. And then you add their tight end and Kyle Pitts Sr., 43 catches for him, 382 yards and a touchdown. He hasn't really broken out, but he's a big, strong, fast tight end that can be dangerous himself. So that's there's Chap, so many ways that this Falcons team can burn you. It's not like certain other teams that might only have 1 or 2 threats. Like it seems like everywhere you turn your head, like there can be a threat. So this Colts defense needs to be able to buck up in this game and answer threats from anywhere they come. And that's, again, another reason why it's all the more important to have a Sauce Gardner there as your number 1 cornerback, because you can just slot him in there and say, do your job and take this guy out of the field so our other 10 guys can worry about the rest of what's going on.
Yeah, we've talked about it. He was asked Sauce Gardner about the pressure of him coming in here and sort of being the savior or the missing piece, sort of. I think the pressure is more on the defense. We're in Anarumo, we're giving you an all-pro corner, so that should elevate everyone else. It should make the pass defense better. It should help the back end. So they need to play well, and I think again they played reasonably well against Pittsburgh with the spots they were put in. But this is when you got all levels of threats on offense. Running back, tight end, receivers, and it's going to stress everybody up. Boy, it's got to be reassuring to know that, like it would have been with Mooney Ward. Mm-hmm. Drake London, this is or Sauce, this is your guy. Take care of him on your side of the field, and that just forces everyone else, Jalen Jones and everyone else to play, Kenny Moore, to play at a high level, because, like I said, all these guys are top draft picks and threats to go deep if you give them the chance.
On the defensive side of the ball, the Falcons' leading tacklers are linebacker Caden Ellis with 53 tackles, and then their 2 safeties. Jesse Bates has 47. Obviously, a man who's very familiar with Lou Anarumo for his time in Cincinnati. And then the rookie safety, Xavier Watts, out of Notre Dame, has 45 tackles this year. He was a really good player for the Irish and has stepped right in as a starter for the Falcons and been fairly good there in the back end. So their sack leaders, defensive tackle Brandon Dorless and defensive end Zach Harrison, both have 3.5 sacks on the year, and their linebacker Jalen Walker adds another 3 sacks this year. Let's take a look at their rankings. The Falcons and the Colts, one against the other. For points per game, the Colts still first in the NFL in spite of falling back to 20 points last week. They are averaging 32.2 points per game. Falcons way down in 28th at 17.9 because they have had some absolute stinkers. It seems strange that we've been talking up the Falcons playmakers over the past 10 minutes, but they're 28th in the NFL in points per game.
They're also in the, I think, 22nd in red zone TD percentage. So and they don't have nearly as many trips, obviously, as the Colts do.
Right.
And so that's another factor.
Good point. Points allowed per game. The Colts are 7th in the league, averaging 20.1 points allowed. The Falcons are 13th. They're averaging 22.3 points allowed. Point differential, the Colts are still huge in point differential. 109 points plus over the opponent through 9 games to start off the season is just massive. Winning by an average of 10 points per game, better than your opponent there. And then the Falcons negative 35. And when they've lost big. At a 3-5 record, you'd expect it to be a little bit closer. But like I said, when they lose big, and their offense just isn't doing a whole lot of anything in their 5 losses this year for the most part. So total offense, Falcons are right down the middle of the pack in offense. They're 15th in total offense, 15th in passing yards, 15th in rushing yards. The Colts are second in total offense in the NFL. They're second in passing yards per game in the NFL. They are 8th in rushing yards per game, 125.6 rushing yards. Falcons are 4th in total defense, which is one of their biggest strengths. Like we said, when this Falcons defense is at its best, they're pretty darn good, only giving up 282 yards per game. The Colts offense is going to have to crack that nut over there, so to speak, in Berlin. The Colts 16th in total defense, allowing 331 yards per game. Passing defense, Falcons are the best in the NFL, only allowing 158.1 yards per game. Daniel Jones, Michael Pittman Jr., Tyler Warren, Alec Pierce, gauntlet thrown, better pick it up.
Offensive
take the
line.
challenge. Offensive line, big time, for sure. Colts are 26th in passing defense, way down 244 yards per game allowed. Rushing defense, Falcons are 23rd. All right, Jonathan Taylor, something to be said for getting some holes opened up for you. Colts 4th in the NFL in rushing defense allowing 87 yards per game, only 4 yards per rush. Falcons are +4 in turnover ratio. They forced 11 and surrendered 7. The Colts went way down over last week since they gave up
will do that
6 turnovers on offense. Yep. Yeah, so they're +3 now in the on the season.
Or they're -5.
They were
in the game.
Yeah, in the game because they had that late crazy fumble guy tried to hurdle. We almost had a Sage Rosenfels situation, and then they were not able to capitalize on
Good times. Yes. So those are the Colts and Falcons by the numbers. What jumps out to me is the Falcons defense, like just not allowing too many yards, and defense is something that can travel on these road games overseas. So some of them have just been kind of slogs as offenses try to find their footing in a different time zone and slightly different scenarios and different habits or whatever you'd have to
you try to make it as normal as you can, but it's not.
Exactly. It can't be totally normal. So like I said, defense is the one that just most of the time tends to, in these games overseas, travel a little bit more. So that Falcons defense, they're going to try to rely on them on that side of the ball to kind of hold the line.
Although I think the Colts offense travels well.
Yeah, and that's fair.
Just because of the way they play with, really, they get their shock plays, but they're still more of a controlled offense. And when you got Jonathan Taylor, which they need to, Shane Steichen had to answer a lot this week about only giving JT 14 carries. I don't know. I thought a few more, but when the game gets away from you in the second half, you can't be that patient.
And here's the thing: they have all year really throw to score, run to win. That's what he's done, and they were a 7-1 team entering that week. So in the first half, they have thrown a lot. I have no problem with what Shane did in this game, and that's the strategy that has worked in order to put them on top of the AFC South. So I think it's a nitpicky criticism. If you're an NFL coach and head coach of an NFL team, you're going to have to face nitpicky criticism. It comes with the territory. So I'm sure Shane takes it with a grain of salt and says, "Yeah, maybe I could have called a few more runs because Jonathan Taylor was a pretty good player."
But at one point, it was 27-7, whatever.
Right.
So
how many runs do you want to call it at that point, for crying out loud? So
that's where then the media gets on him. Well, why are you running the ball so much? You're down two
exactly. Yeah, you get the exact opposite of that. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So, but one thing I did find very coincidental was the final score of the Steelers game was 27-20. Yep. Matt knows where I'm going with this.
Yep,
same as the Rams game.
Final score. They've their 2 losses this year were both by the final score of 27-20. Yep. So I guess just score more than 20 points, and you got yourself a ball game. So,
but like you said, the Steelers only got 27 points off of 6 takeaways.
You would expect like 45 points.
Right. They got 24. They got 24 out of it.
Yes.
But again, I want to give the defense props for not making it worse. The offense, you just can't. You have to say, like we talked to Tony Sperano today, and it was like, I've got to do a better job. But I think his approach is, that was just one of those games. And it wasn't one guy. It wasn't Bernie getting beat. It was everybody.
Yep.
The edges didn't play well. Braden Smith gave up the strip sack.
Yeah.
Bernie did. Matt Gonzalez got whipped in the middle. Mm-hmm. So and Quentin got pushed back too much. It was one of those like normally it's like one guy this play. This was everybody had bad plays and it just snowballed on them.
Yeah. And that's what like I tweeted out when I was there, something like the Colts offense was just gangbusters at the start of this game. Right. Drove down the field, touchdown, drove down the field, and then takeaway. Like, the second time it was the Josh Downs muff punt, so they didn't get it for their second possession, but their third possession drove down and got stripped. But it was just one play by T.J. Watt beat Braden Smith, and as we said on this podcast, like that hasn't happened too much in the past 2 years when they faced off against each other. Like T.J. Watt, like you'd eventually expect him to get one, and he finally got one. That really matters.
Is part of that arrogance on the Colts' part to say that Braden don't get him, or I thought it was a case of this is our offense, this is what we're running, and we expect our 2 tackles to hold up so that we can have 5 guys going on.
I think it would be foolhardy to often provide serious help for Braden when he has controlled T.J. Watt in the past. You know, like, do you do it sometimes? Sure, that's fine to give him a different look. But if you say our game plan has to be to leave a tight end in or leave a running back to help, why are you doing it?
What does that say about your tackle?
Exactly. Like,
no. And Watt on that play, Watt got in the backfield super fast because if he'd had if Daniel Jones had a half second more, he's either got Tyler Warren there in the middle of the field. He's wide open. And if you watch the end of that play, Alec Pierce beats his man on the outside. But none of that matters when the defender gets into the backfield.
Yep. So anyway,
that's what the great pass rushers do.
Yeah,
exactly.
They give you 3 plays. Mm-hmm. You know, and when they do that, it turns games.
Yep, we've talked about it for years, and it was another Watt that we really started to talk about it here on this podcast in the early days here.
And J.J. Watt's a pretty good announcer.
He is.
I really like him in the booth.
Yep. He's also next to a pretty good broadcaster there in Iron Eagle from Syracuse University. We'll just throw that out there. He's helping him along there for sure.
He's a great announcer despite going to Syracuse University.
Exactly. He might say his son is nipping at his heels. Who's pretty good too. Noah Eagle. Anyway, also a Syracuse University graduate. Who's well past me already. Here I am on the Colts Blue Zone podcast. There they are broadcasting NFL games. Good for them. Injury reports from Wednesday. Falcons had 10 players listed on their injury report, did not practice. Guard Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse University, actually right there. We'll throw that out there. The starter with an ankle injury.
Something that just kind of points out Syracuse
I just know them.
Zaire Franklin.
Exactly.
Dwight Freeney.
Yep. Marvin Harrison.
James Mungro.
My God, James Mungro. My dudes. Let's go. John Mackey. Linebacker Leonard Floyd, a starter with a hamstring injury. Guard Chris Lindstrom, a starter with a foot injury. Jim Brown went to Syracuse University. He's not playing this weekend either.
Floyd Little.
Yes. Legend. All those legends. May they rest.
You started this.
Peaceful. I did. I very much did. Tackle Storm Nocton on IR, trying to return. With a foot injury.
It doesn't sound real good for him reading through the Falcons media stuff.
Limited in practice on Wednesday. That's a lot of starters there and some offensive line starters. Like worrisome if you're the Falcons offensive line. Linebacker
Colts.
J.D. Bertrand with a knee was limited. More limited players. The starter Mike Hughes at corner with a neck injury. Defensive tackle LaCale London with a shoulder. Practiced in full, cornerback Billy Bowman, the nickel starter with a hamstring injury, defensive tackle Zach Harrison, who's one of their sack leaders. We mentioned him earlier with a knee injury. Wide receiver Casey Washington has a back injury. Colts had 8 players who did not participate in Wednesday's practice. DeForest Buckner with a neck. Unless his neck is snapped, he's playing in this game. Samson Ebukam with the knee. He's
not playing.
He's not playing still. Matt Gonzalez, personal reasons on Wednesday.
He's still dealing with
his family,
the family
issues with his dad.
Stephen Holder mentioned that he was traveling and he ran into Gonzalez coming home from Indy, so he had personal issues to deal with.
Right, and best to his family again, like we've said before. Anthony Gould with his knee again did not practice. Tyquan Lewis with the groin. Kenny Moore with an Achilles. Michael Pittman Jr. a glute. Full practice, Sauce Gardner, Ahmad Gardner. If he shows up there,
that's what the name is on the report.
I wonder if you go up to him and pass him on the street and say, "Ahmad, how you doing?"
Ahmad,
would he recognize that you're talking to him because he's so Sauce is what he's gone with
for a long time,
like when he was 6 years old.
Is this a Darius Shaquille Leonard thing that was just taken care of from the jump, so that he was just Sauce as always? But yeah, I think he'd recognize it. Perhaps
we've got some updates from practice today.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
This is from James Boyd, The Athletic. Not practicing Buckner, Ebukam, Gold, and Lewis. I don't think they're going to play.
Right.
But Sauce Gardner practicing. Gonzalez is back. Kenny Moore practiced, and Michael Pittman practiced. So it's our weekly reminder: is don't put too
Wednesday,
much.
Don't put a lot of stock in it.
Wednesday's a suggestion. Today's more so. Kenny Moore, again, I'll practice as many times on Wednesday as he does. He's just not. So I think they're in pretty good shape. I'm looking forward after the bye to see that Mooney Ward's back. He was working with trainers on the side yesterday, which is encouraging.
Very much so.
And it's very encouraging, obviously, that Sauce Gardner is out of protocol. So I think they're in pretty good shape health-wise.
Colts take on the Falcons in Olympic Stadium in Berlin. Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time kickoff. Broadcast on Fox 59, where you can watch the Colts Blue Zone podcast. Not Colts Blue Zone, not the podcast. You can watch the Colts Blue Zone pregame show, at 9 a.m., leading right up to game coverage itself. Colts are 6.5-point favorites in this game on the Falcons, which is a big number.
It's a big number.
The Colts also have been winning or have a plus 10 points a game anyway, like we said earlier, in their point differential. So we say it's a big number, and it is for NFL standards, but Colts haven't been beating that.
They've been beating
exactly
right.
that big number so far. So, and the over/under, I think, is 48 rather, 48.5.
That's a big number.
Yeah, it is another one. So we're expecting 27-21 ball game if we're Vegas, something like that. So I'll go first, and then Chap can go, and Matt can give our predictions for this game. I'm going to take the Colts going into their bye week with a win. I do think last week was the aberration for Daniel Jones. I don't put the majority of fault for those turnovers on him. It always comes down to the quarterback because he's the one with the ball in his hand. And do you say, you could have thrown it? You could have known the defensive lineman was able to deflect your ball, and you're not throwing it at the right angle, and you feel the pressure from the back. Sure, all those things. But I think until they prove otherwise, last week was the aberration for me for that offense. So, and in spite of turning the ball over 6 times, you were still only losing by 7 points. It was funny. We're talking to ourselves in the locker room afterwards. If they only turn the ball over 5 times, we're probably still up in the press box right now for overtime. Or if they only turn the ball over 4 times, they win this ball game.
That's very true.
Which is insane.
It's absurd
to say.
It's absurd
Absolutely
to say that, but you did think that.
Exactly. And so we had a nice hearty laugh about that. Me and the Colts media who were traveling for that game. But anyway, for this game, I'll take the Colts. I'll put them back in the. I think the Falcons' defense is, like I've said, pretty good. So I don't know if they top 30 this week in Berlin. If they do, that'd be exceptional and a great response to last week. You can be really happy if that's the case. But I'll go with, I think, something along the lines of a 27-17 ball game. We'll give them a 10-point win in Berlin. They come home, they rest, and they get ready for a home stretch that features quite a few good teams. Good quarterbacks.
Not at home.
That Sauce Gardner is going to have to be at his best for some of those games. So that's my prediction. Chap, what do you got for this weekend's Colts Falcons game overseas?
Yeah, I think they bounce back as well. I'm saying the 27-20 is getting to be a score that's familiar on the schedule. So they need to win a 27-20 game.
There you go.
Again, I do believe, until proven otherwise, the Pittsburgh game was that one of those games, the aberration. Yep. And then now if they come out and have another stinker, then we have issues. But 27-20.
And you're grateful for the bye at that point. Where
no question.
Analyze it. Yeah, exactly.
No question. They may be grateful for the bye anyway.
Oh, yes.
But I think they bounce back. I just like the way this team is constructed. I like the way it's playing. erasing Pittsburgh. So 27-20 Colts. They go into the bye week 8-2 with at least tied for the best record in the league.
Pretty darn good if that's the case. Matt, what you got?
27s across the board. I was, as Mike was talking, I was flashing my paper to Dave because I'd written my score out and circled it. 27-17, which is the same score.
I saw him looking at your paper.
Dave.
Well, I was thinking of going 27-7, but that's a number that has different connotations in Colts lore, so I decided to give him 17.
He's that kid in high school who kept looking over my paper and stealing my stuff.
I'm just like, what? Anyway, we've all got them scoring 27 points this week. I've got the Colts going and getting the win in Berlin. Hopefully, it's not one of those. We've had some of the overseas games that have just been really rough to watch, so hopefully this is not one of those. I'm thinking about the Jets game from a few weeks ago that was like 13-11.
They were the Jets, to be fair.
That is true. It's Broncos and Jets, I think. It was just awful. It was over in England.
Thanks.
And so I've got the Colts winning 27-17.
Take that, England. That's for taxation without representation. We'll give you the Broncos and the Jets.
Put a tariff on that one.
Yeah, exactly. So, by the way, from the accusations that I would ever steal your
I don't see it written down anywhere on your
exactly
paper.
Well, accused but never convicted.
And you could also say no one knows whether or not I sat here and wrote down the same score as Dave was given the score.
Exactly.
Now that's not what happened, but you can't say that. All right. Just thought it was funny.
So it's still possible that he peeked over that
as he was writing, like it was at the same time.
At the same time,
it's like the inception, the dream thing, the creation and the realization at the same time. Whatever, we saw it there. So anyway, Colts-Falcons as they try to finish this pre-bye schedule at 8-2, still on top of the NFL right now. No one better than them. They can only say that they're tied with a couple teams now in the AFC.
Hey, we didn't mention either. Again, are they like 3 up on Houston?
Yeah, they're 3 and 5.
And CJ Stroud's out this week.
How about that? They haven't played Houston yet, to be fair to them. So I mean that could swing very quickly in the other direction.
They've got 4 games coming up against divisional opponents on the back half of that schedule.
Yep, and you would expect the 4 toughest of the games.
And one of them's an automatic loss, right?
In Jacksonville, like there's no way that I'm picking the Colts for that game. Like we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But right now it's gangbusters forward for the Colts and the Falcons overseas in Germany's Olympic Stadium at 9:30 a.m. 9 a.m. if you're watching the Colts Blue Zone podcast. Exactly. Oh, I'm going to be here. I have to anchor the show at 9 a.m. So I will definitely be awake.
Or what time you walk in?
Well, I have kids, so I'll be awake. It's, okay. I'll make it here.
I don't, so I won't.
Exactly. I have no concerns that I will be up and on time and ready to go for this Week 10 matchup for the Colts. I certainly am as well. You can watch us on YouTube on Fox 59 now as well. Be sure to, if you're listening to the podcast, get us subscribed and get us delivered to your podcast listening device as soon as we drop every week. You can follow us on Twitter at Colts Blue Zone. Mike Chappell is at mchappell51. Matt Adams is at Statomatty. I'm Dave Griffiths at DaveG_sports. We'll see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone podcast.